Hi guys, this is Elena with Nicole Health. I am answering some frequently asked questions around exercise and working out. Last week I did a healthy habit challenge in my Facebook group, which is Feel Good Fit Life, and I had a few of these questions come through, so wanted to answer them on video. So today I am going to cover the topic of how to have a routine and stick to it and schedule time to do it consistently. So because this is all about creating sustainable, lasting, realistic habits that actually work for you. So this question is really relevant here, so I'm so glad it was asked. You guys can always follow me at Elena Nicole Health on all the social pages. And then again, as I mentioned, my group is Feel Good Fit Life. I also am a certified health coach, as you may know, so you can definitely contact me if you're ever interested in working one-on-one or getting more information. First call is always free. And what we do is really dive into what your goals are and try to identify where you're getting stuck or struggling, and even possibly start to talk about what a healthy lifestyle plan may look like for you. So anyways, back to today's topic is how to keep a routine, schedule time out, and actually stick to it. So if you guys see me looking over to the side, it's because I have my notes here. I get really distracted easily, so I have kind of some bullet points here. So I try and stay on track, and I will do as best as I possibly can to do that. So the question that came in is, how do I create a routine? How do I schedule time to get it done and actually do it consistently? So my first question to you or anyone else who struggles with any part of this is figure out where exactly you're getting stuck. Is it in coming up with a plan or routine? Is it in actually scheduling the time out? Or is it in the carrying out of what you plan to do? Figure out exactly where it is that you're getting stuck. If it's all the areas, then you can kind of analyze exactly what's going through your mind when you get to each phase of it. Put yourself back in the last time where you were maybe trying to go and do a workout, but you weren't actually getting to it, or coming up with a plan and you weren't actually creating a plan or finding one online. What was actually going through your mind? Because every single thing that we either do or don't do comes down to a thought. When we can identify that thought, it's really helpful to even just be aware of it. Then we can start to ask ourselves, okay, why am I thinking that? And many times when we start to question that, we realize that it's not what we want to be thinking, and then we can more easily shift that thought. The whole idea behind thought work and understanding and becoming more aware of what we're thinking is because every single thought we have creates a feeling. And when we want to do things like work out consistently or eat healthier consistently, that feeling that we want to be creating, we want it to fuel those actions. So if we're having negative thoughts, that are creating feelings of overwhelm or negativity, that is not going to fuel the actions that we want to consistently carry out habits. And that's why it's so important. So when I talk about mindset and thought work, it's not just, for fluffy reasons. It's really because it has a purpose. I heard, I think it was last week or the week before, I was listening to something through the Life Coach School. Check out that podcast if you want to know more about this. And they were using the analogy of the thought creates your feeling. That is actually like the gasoline in your car. The car is the action. So like you want to create that fuel, that gasoline that is really going to push you forward, because you continue to need more and more of it. So that's exactly what they said on the podcast or whatever it was that I was listening to. And I was like, wow, that's really, really good. And what that all comes down to is your why, your driving factor for doing any of this, which is going to really determine if you continue with it or not. But to start back at where I was going with this is really identify where you're getting stuck. Identify what those thoughts are, what the holdup is. Definitely reach out to me if you want help, like kind of evaluating exactly what that is. But something I always encourage doing is get your thoughts down on paper, even open up a Google Doc on your computer if that's more your style. Try and dump everything out of your brain, and then sometimes it's easier to identify like what exactly is going on and where you're getting stuck. So the next piece of this, I'll just kind of pretend that it's all areas, would be, do you actually have a plan and routine that you're trying to stick to? Many times we want to get started with something and we're like, I'm just going to work out, but you don't actually create or find. Literally you can Google, you can go to YouTube, you can reach out to me. I'm happy to help you come out with a plan. That's literally what I do with clients. Even in an initial call, as I mentioned, we can get started with kind of the bones of that. And the point is, in the beginning, not exactly what you're doing, but developing those habits and that consistency. So honestly, if you're just starting off and you're struggling with even getting a plan off the ground and sticking with it, it's better to just do something on a regular basis, and then you can tweak and modify it later, which is the benefit of working with a coach or a trainer, even if it's not me, because then they can help you do that to customize it for your goals and your lifestyle. But that would be a starting point that I would suggest, is identify a plan for a certain period of time based on your goals and what you want, and literally just commit to sticking to it. So if you don't currently have a plan that you want to be following or that you're following, that would be the first step that I would recommend, is definitely getting something that kind of seems like it will relate and help you kind of work towards your goals. You can always modify and tweak it later, and focus on that consistency and turning it into those routines so it becomes a habit. Okay, so next, I'm just going to give a few tips and strategies that may be helpful for you as well. Again, my notes are over here, so if I'm looking to the side, that's what I'm doing. So really starting back at the beginning of my healthy habit process and like developing your goal, again, you want to get really clear on what it is you want. And I always suggest setting specific measurable goals, giving yourself a general timeline, just so you can get clarity around what you're working towards. And then again, as I mentioned before, your why. So you really want to have clarity and purpose. If you know what you're working towards and why you're doing it, it's a lot more helpful to be consistent with it. I always use the analogy of, think about if you were going to a job, you didn't know what they were paying you, you didn't really know if you liked the work or what work you were doing. Would you continue to show up if there really was no benefit or you didn't know? Probably not. Or you'd show up late. So it's kind of like, how committed are you? If you're 50% committed, you're going to get 50% results. And I think it's a Trent Shelton quote that he says, if you have a consistency problem, you really have a commitment problem. So that's another thing that I would ask, is just really, how committed are you? And sometimes when you get really clear on what it is you want and why you want it, that can help you figure out, like, how committed am I? Am I really serious? And then you can really make that full-on decision and go forward with it. So again, we talked about getting clear on a plan. We talked about kind of analyzing what it is you want, why you want it, really making that full-on decision and going for it. And when you do that, your brain is typically in the beginning going to give you a whole lot of resistance, and it's going to help you come up with the reasons why you're not going to be able to do it. And when you get those things like, I don't have time, what if I wake up late, my kids are sometimes crazy, what if I have to work late, what if, all these things, they're all going to come up. And a lot of times we just want to push them to the side and pretend they're not there. But really what that is doing is it's offering us part of our road plan for what we want to do and where we want to go. So we really want to write all those down, save them in your notes, save them on a Google Doc, whatever it is. So then when you're creating that plan, you can pay attention to those and create a backup options for them. For example, if I wake up late in the morning, I know that I am going to move my workout to another day, or I'm going to modify my workout. That literally happened to me this week. My daughter was up all night, she wasn't feeling good, so I made my workout shorter, and I also did a couple laps around my building at work during the day, because I like to get my movement in a certain amount of times a day. So I know what my what is, I know my why, the how just changes. So that's really just focusing on those things, and always keeping that top of mind. Write your why down all over the place if it's not something that is front and center for you yet. For me, it took me a really long time to identify exactly what that was. I always thought it was like a number on the scale, just more of the vanity measures, which are totally fine, but usually it's something deeper. Like I mentioned, it has to really bring up that emotion that is driving action for you. And for me, I realized it was really how I was feeling every day, and putting in that effort that would help me feel how I wanted to feel every single day when I woke up. Really consistently. Okay, so the next piece of it is, once you figured out the plan, you've kind of dealt with all the mindset stuff, dealt with all the foundational pieces, is figuring out when are you going to do these things, making it realistic for you to start off with. Okay, so if you're saying, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to eat healthy, or whatever it may be, work out 5 times a week, whatever it is, whatever those things are that you're saying you want to do, make sure it's realistic. If you literally are running from place to place right now, you probably want to evaluate where your time's going, what your priorities are, before you try to tackle, like 3 hours of working out every single day during the week. I don't know who would do that. I feel like that may be a little crazy, especially if you're listening to my videos. But you basically want to make it realistic when you start off, because like I mentioned, it's more important to develop those habits and be consistent with it. And to start off, you want to make sure that you're starting as small as you need to. You want to start where you are and work towards where you want to be. So basically, you're going to pick those items, you're going to work off a plan, you're going to modify, adapt, based on whatever you decide to do. And you're going to schedule it into your calendar. So if you use a Google Calendar, if you use a handwritten, whatever they're called, memo pad calendar on your desk, whatever it is that you use. Sometimes I use a whiteboard. I've shown that before. That's on my desk. I walk past it all the time. So I know what I'm doing in my personal life, because I'm more like a digital calendar person for my work. But then in my personal stuff, sometimes I use notebooks and whiteboards. It's just, I don't know, something I do. You got to figure out what works for you. Write those things down and pick when you're going to do it. Pick the times that are least likely that are going to get interrupted. For me, that is literally first thing in the morning. I know that that is the time that the chances of something coming up, something happening, are slim to none. It does happen. I do oversleep, but then I always think of it as literally sliding that appointment to another time in my calendar versus deleting it. So that is how I look at it, but it's really, really crucial to schedule that in. And if you are looking at your calendar and you cannot figure out when you're going to put it in, definitely I would love to talk to you about what is going on in your life and how we can make it work. Second, I would think that maybe starting off a little bit smaller is where you need to go and kind of build up that momentum, and then you can add in more. I would also always consider looking at where you're spending your time, what your priorities are, and seeing if they align, because that can be really helpful as well. So that's the next step, is really getting that scheduled in, being realistic about how much you can do and when you can do it to start off with. And then after you do that, looking at my notes, sorry guys. So after you do that, you also want to think about what are the little activities around it that you're going to have to coordinate. Do you need to get childcare? Do you need to drive to the gym? Do you need to schedule a class? Figure those out as well and schedule them in. And this sounds like a lot, but once you get it all kind of written out and into your calendar, it takes that mental weight off of you. And I don't know if any of you have like ongoing to-do lists. If you have them and you don't actually have those activities scheduled into your calendar, I feel like I always just have this kind of drag on me. Like I know I have all these things to do, but I don't know when I'm going to do them. The second I give them a time slot, and when I start committing to actually following through with that stuff, this video is a perfect example. I usually record these at night. To be completely honest, how many times do I actually feel like recording these videos after a super long day? Not very often, but I love getting them out. I love that they're possibly helping you guys, so I end up doing it, and I honor my calendar. That's what I want all of you to start getting used to doing, being accountable to yourself, and hopefully these types of tips and tricks can help you do that. So anyways, you're going to schedule it out, put it wherever you're going to see it, and also allocate time for those little activities that you may have to figure out along the way. And then also, while this sounds like a lot to do, once you do it, you're going to feel so much better, I promise you. And again, Life Coach School, they have this whole process of ripping up your to-do list, because you get out of your mind everything you need to do, but then it goes into an actual time slot. It's been so game-changing for me. I do it kind of my own way, but it makes such a huge difference. So anyways, the next part is the key piece here. It is actually following through with what you say you're going to do and what you actually schedule and what you commit to on your calendar. That is like at least 50% of the whole problem here. And so what happens is at 5 a.m. or 6 p.m. after work, whenever it is for you, you have these things that you were planning to do, and we literally never feel like doing them. We may, if we do something super exciting and throw in a crazy new workout, or maybe we're trying some really fun new healthy recipe, we may be a little excited or motivated, but most of the time that is when our brain loves to give us every single reason of resistance and excuses of why we shouldn't, couldn't, don't have to do these things. I am telling you that is completely normal. We all go through it. Literally, I was just giving you an example with this. Every single morning when I wake up at 5 o'clock, 4:55 to be exact, not every morning, but like 5 days a week, or 3 days a week, and then 2 on the weekend, so I don't. But anyways, you get the point. I have all that stuff in my head. You don't need to do it. You can do it tomorrow. You can do it later. Sleep 10 more minutes. And I just have to kind of accept and acknowledge and hear those thoughts my brain is offering me and go forward with my plan, with my commitment. You're not resisting them. You're not, shutting them off or pushing them away, just letting them be there. And you're going forward with your commitment. And that is literally such a huge piece. First on the front end is you're making the plan, you're figuring out what you're going to do. Again, it's more about the consistency, the habits in the beginning, and then on the back end, which is equally or more important, is actually following through with what you say you're going to do. And I've said this a million times, when you don't do that consistently, you are actually creating the habit that you can't trust yourself, that you're going to say you're going to do things and you're not going to do them, which we would never want to do to ourselves, but we do it all the time. We honor our commitments to our kids, to our family members, to work, but then a lot of times when it comes down to us, we just kind of let it go. So that is what I really don't want you guys to do. So I've covered a ton of little pieces here of creating a plan, creating a routine, actually following through with it. If you could ever have questions, please feel free to reach out. Like I mentioned, I'm at Elena Nicole Health on Facebook, on Instagram, and my Facebook group is Feel Good Fit Life. You can message me anywhere. You can also visit me on my website, elenanicolehealth.com. As I mentioned, I do one-on-one coaching. I also sometimes do group workshops and challenges and things like that. So again, would love to connect with you, and I hope this was helpful. Thanks so much.